Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain today. Today what we're doing is we're going to be working on kind of extending our cordon sweet pea trellis. And this is kind of an experiment for us because we've never done this before, but basically what we're going to be doing is trying to kind of lay the vines down and retrain them up so that they have another cycle that they can go through for another 4 or 5, 6 feet and keep producing. Maybe we can get another 3 to 4 weeks out of it. So let's take a walk through and show you the different parts of where things are at now and what do we got to do to make it work. Okay, what you can kind of start to see here is that the vines have really reached the top of the trellising system, and so much so that they're right almost next to the plastic on the ceiling of the tunnel. And so one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to make sure that we get rid of any spent blossoms or anything like that, because one of the things that kind of happens is once these guys get up towards the top of the tunnel where the heat is, you start getting bud abscission and they're not blooming like they used to. Plus, we also still have some extra tendrils and things like that that we have to get rid of. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through and trim off all the tendrils, any like some of the previous blossoms that weren't harvested that maybe now are setting seed pods, and we're going to get rid of that, and that way it'll be clean when we lean the things down. Now the other thing that we're going to do too is if you look at some of these lower leaves, you know, they've kind of gotten to the point where they're not really producing a whole hell of a lot, you know, in terms of photosynthesis activity and things of that nature. So we'll trim these guys that are crispy off and just get it down to the basic stem itself. And that way it'll be, you know, it won't be so much extra biomass in the way. Also too, it'll give us a chance to make certain that we don't have any suckers or anything like that growing. So that's the first thing to do. So it's kind of a bit of a cleanup job to get it done. And then we'll start the next process, which is, okay, figuring out the extension of the trellis and how we're going to lay these guys down. All right, we've gone through and we have taken off all the excess things, all the excess tendrils, any spent blossoms, things of that nature. So now we have a pretty good clean row of what we're going to be dealing with. So let's walk down to the end where we've already done kind of got it started, and we can kind of explain to you, you know, how we set this up. Okay, what we're looking at right here is these are the sweet peas we laid down about 4 or 5 days ago. Now, what we did is we extended the trellis out an extra roughly about 6 feet, put in another support post, and then we set up some new strings for the ones on the very end of the row. So the idea is what we did is we took from the end row where they were going up the single from the beginning, and then we laid them down as far as we could, and then turned like the last foot to or so, not much more than 1.5 feet, but right around a foot, and then clipped it to the new string. So the idea is that for the 7 foot of actual sweet pea that was going up the original trellis, we ended up with about 5.5 feet of it laying on the ground, and then the very growth tip heading back up again. So there's not much that's going to be happening to the actual vines itself. When you start looking at these guys, they're just kind of laying down flat, but they're actually clipped to the new string. So the new blossoms, you can see these guys are new blossoms. They're doing actually pretty well. So this guy's already up the string about 1.5 feet. So it's going to just take off and continue to go up. So that's the whole idea, is each one of these nodes then, as it grows up, will put out more sweet pea blossoms. And we should still get really good stem length. Like this guy's still pretty good stem length, you know, for just getting started again. So this should give us, probably, if the temperatures don't set the vines back too much, we should be able to get near the end of July if this works out right. So here's a close-up of the actual vine coming in, and what it does is it connects to the string itself, and then goes up. This one's probably pretty advanced. This one's up about 2 feet already. But you can see we're still getting nice blooms. So this should give us a lot of extra time. How much time did it take us to do this? That's going to be the real key versus what we get out of it. But for us, the long-stemmed, fairly good-sized head sweet peas get a pretty good market price in our area. So I think it's going to be worth it for us. And when we get finished or near finished, when these guys get near the top, again, as they grow up, they're going to get near the top of the trellis, probably towards the end of July. What we'll do is we'll just kind of back off harvest at that point for the last couple of weeks and let those remaining blossoms form seed heads, and those will be our seed for next year's crop. So that way we can kind of continuously keep going, and we don't have to buy any new sweet pea seed. These guys are all self-fertilizing, so they should stay true to what they are. So as an example, this lavender will still be a lavender. So I wanted to give you guys kind of a look at what a typical clip looks like. Now, let me see if I can get this into focus here. Okay, if you can see, I'm not doing this very good, but if you can see that there's actually like a little groove right there, well, that's where the string goes in. So this is actually going to act like a little clamp around the string itself. And then this part right here has actually just a little bit of a hatch type thing. So you can see like there's a clip on it, and that goes like that. And then once it snaps shut, it ends up being strong enough and the stem actually goes through here. So we use these on all of our sweet peas instead of wrapping around the string because it makes disconnecting a lot faster. So to lay the vine down, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and remove each one of these clips. As you can see it right there. We're going to remove those guys except for maybe the last one or two. And then we'll take the actual string off of the top, which is hooked to a little metal, if you can see it right there, you can see like there's a little metal hook, and we'll take that string off of there, and then we can lay down the entire vine next to the new string. Now what you can kind of see is I left two of these clips on, and I'm just going to remove these guys, and that way we can get the string completely detached, the original string on the original trellis completely detached, so we just pull it out. So now what I want to do is, this is the new string that I'm connecting to, and what I want to do is I want to make certain that I have it as far down as possible to near the bottom, so that'll give us the most additional growing room. So then I just put a new set of clips around it, and she'll be set to grow up. And that is about all there is to it. So this guy is down to the ground, and we'll be able to grow up the new string. I've already got one blossom right here, so it's going to work out pretty good. So all I got to do is just keep going down each side. The way our sweet peas are laid out, we planted on alternate sides of the trellis system. So we go down one side, and then we go down the other side. So it works out pretty slick. The last thing we're going to do is we just pull the string out from the old guy, and now we rehook it back up to the top of the trellis. So it's going to be good to go for when we get to another plant further down the line. Okay, you might have noticed that things are looking a little different, like the light isn't as intense, and I got a different hat on. Well, I did most of this during the afternoon, and it really got to the point by about 4 o'clock where it was just way too hot in here. Even with drinking a gallon of water, it wasn't working for me. So I got all the way down here, and I got my last 4 or so plants to put down. So I thought I would just, kind of go back over what we're doing and how we're connecting these things up. And we've really started back down at the beginning of the row, which is about, probably, this is about a 50-foot row, and there's approximately 200 sweet pea plants in here that we're doing this for. And some of them actually ended up going way beyond the actual trellis itself. So there's going to be some readjustment on some of these blossoms we're probably going to lose and just use for ourselves, because once we lay the vines down, they're going to be at like a bad angle. And once the sweet pea is formed at a bad angle, it'll try to right itself. So you'll end up with these curves in the stem, and they're really not merchantable. But all the growth tips look really good, and so these things should, you know, give us again another 6-7 feet of production. And every joint, leaf node joint, should produce a bloom. And so we should pretty quickly, within about a week or so after getting this done, we should be back to full production again. And actually we should get more off of this second round, thinking about it, because when the sweet peas started to bloom, they really didn't bloom until they got up to about 1.5 to 2 foot in height. So we really only harvested off probably the top 4.5, 5 feet. So this should give us a full almost 7 feet, and so it should be a lot more, unless the temperatures go gunny sack on us, we should get quite a bit more production off of it.
Will one day be the killer? We got a 99-degree day coming.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is the tunnel's going to be vented all the way open. The ends are going to be wide open. I'm going to wet the bed
Keep the
down.
Soil cool.
Yeah, I'm actually going to come in and just kind of like in the morning of that day, and I'm going to wet the soil down, which should be kind of like a swamp cooler effect. As that water evaporates, it should cool down the area on the plants that we left down. Will actually perform a little bit of a mulching function too. So once we get in and take a look at this, after I lay these guys down, we can walk down and take a look and see what we should end up with is I think we'll be able to kind of have a cooling effect. And I noticed it today too. Once I got away from being up here, which makes total sense, and I'm down and connecting them down, there was a big temperature differential. I mean, it was significantly cooler down below. And as a matter of fact, on a lot of these guys that were near the top foot or so, we were getting a lot of bud abscission, and I was getting stems that actually had no flower buds on them. So it was just too hot. So. Now the nice thing about these stems is they're pretty flexible, so you can get away with, you know, kind of giving them a nice gentle bend without, you know, worrying about snapping the stem. I only had one plant on me that really wasn't a very healthy plant, and it snapped, and I actually lost the plant. But I doubt whether that one was actually going to be doing that well anyway. So you can kind of see that's it, really. Now, going forward, these strings right here, the last 3 aren't needed. So I could pull them out all the way, but they're kind of wrapped around the roots. So I'm probably just going to leave these guys in here and just kind of hook them up just to keep them out of the way. But yeah, the last couple of guys, it's not going to matter. And this is just to keep them out of the way. And when the season's done and we clip the plants off, then I can really yank these strings out from underneath the plant, and it should be pretty good. Let me take care of these last 2. So all these blossoms that are like at a weird angle, very quickly they'll start going up like that. and like I said, they're going to have kind of like problems, so we'll probably just clip them off our own personal bouquets.
They're mine.
They're all ours. Well, you know, it's so much nicer to work in here when it's not 105.
So there's no stock or anything along the sides anymore.
No, we harvested that all out. It was kind of a mid-May type thing, and that did exactly what we wanted it to do, which is give us kind of a, in a sense, a nurse crop. Oh, something happened to my little... And yeah, so it's totally gone. We just cut it off and left the roots.
So 2 crops in here, and what we've discovered is we could possibly have a 3rd crop in terms of glads.
Well, yeah, I don't think... that one could be tough, because you can see once we go to the mode now where we're laying it down, we're actually going over the area where the stock was.
But maybe like a center thing,
Well, yeah,
really early, because they're a one and done.
I think if you wanted to treat the bulb like it was a disposable type thing, you know, like realize that it may not be feasible to keep it
In the future.
in the ground, yeah, for the next year, because it gets in the way. But you know, there's always options, isn't there?
Well, it's fun to figure out what you can and can't do.
Okay, so that pretty much lines it all out, and I'm just gonna, like I said, get this extra string out of the way.
It looks weird.
It does, and it's got the leaves that are on the ground will probably eventually turn yellow, and mostly what's going to be left is the stems that are growing on here are going to do most of the photosynthesis work. And so that as they grow up the trellis, these leaves from the stems that are laying on the ground will probably just desiccate out, and in which case we'll probably come through and just kind of clean it up a little bit if we need to. And yeah, it looks messy right now because you go, wow, look at, they're all like messed up on each other and all that. But most of these blooms, you know, if they're sticking out at the horizontal, they're going to come up, and all the new ones for certain are going to be going in the right direction. If we walk all the way down to the bottom, the end of the row, we've got some that we did this about probably 5 days ago. They were kind of the first ones. And so we can kind of take a look at, you know, what it looks like after it's been sitting for a bit and starting to
Here's the odd glad.
Yeah, it's actually really a beautiful color.
Scented geranium.
So everybody's pretty much at the same height. There's a few of them that are up a little more and a few of them that are down a little bit, but we've got them all in here at least, you know, a good foot on the trellis. And it'll just require routine observation, coming in, get rid of any suckers. Like this right here, here's a perfect example of bud abscission. There's no buds. Gone.
Crumb.
You know, and that was,
crummy.
it was too close to the top. So here we are. This set right in here, these guys were done about 5 days ago. And when they were...
I already cut off of those.
Yeah, you did. As you can see, they're now, you know, angled up straight. They're not...
They were fairly straight when I cut on Monday.
Right. And the thing is, and today is Thursday.
Right.
So this was actually done, I think, Saturday. So they actually straightened themselves out pretty fast.
They weren't as long stemmed as the ones that I harvested throughout the climb to the top, but still very usable.
Yeah.
But I was surprised on how fast they came back ready to be cut.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the new growth. I mean, they're already getting aggressive putting out suckers. Picking up a few of those. And the new growth, and they'll, I mean, look at this. They're already at what? This is like 1.5 foot up.
Well, I was cutting them really low.
Yeah.
Well, on Monday they were like ankle biters.
But every axle bud, I mean, every leaf axle has flower bud on it.
Right.
So the only thing I think the heat, that we may encounter may do to us is we may get fewer blooms on it, and we may get some bud abscission. Hopefully not.
But this heat isn't typical either. So this is a good test to see,
right.
Moving forward, if we can extend the harvest once they got to the top.
And so I'm thinking about, I kind of kept track of my time, how long it took me to do the whole thing. Meaning when I started, I came in and I cleaned up all the things I could clean up. And before I started laying these guys down and reattaching them, putting in the extra support, a few extra new strings, got all those set up, and then got the job done. And I'd say it took about 4.5 hours to do the whole thing.
Might have been faster if it wasn't so hot.
Yeah, I might have gone faster if I hadn't stopped to have to drink water all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not too bad, I think, and it'll be worth getting an extra. Well, if we go to the end of July, we are kind of mid-June right now, so it could get us 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we'll see, though. I mean, these guys are still growing really fast, so I don't know how fast we're going to end up going to the top and then having to do it again. No, I'm just kidding.
We won't do it again, will we?
No, what'll happen is, and I talked about this a little earlier, is we'll harvest on these guys until they get up to within a foot or so of the top. And then we'll let the blossoms go to seed.
So I can pick again.
Right, and so what we'll do is some of the colors, we may put like a little marker by them or something and say this is this color, like if we want. But mostly for us, it's going to be a mix of seed. But we want to make certain that we get enough of everything. And that'll be our seed for next year. So start over again. And most of this seed was saved.
Oh, it all was.
Yeah.
I didn't pick, I just tried to pick, saying, oh, I want the light blue, oh, I want the little pinky, light pink, or the salmon color. But I was not really specific. I just went and saved really good sized pods because I knew what was growing here was everything I wanted.
Yeah, the cool thing about sweet peas is once you get the colors and the vigorous plants that you want, if you save the seeds off of those plants,
they stay true.
They stay true. They self-fertilize. So the only way to change a color or breed a new one is you actually have to physically, manipulate it. So even those guys being right next to each other, this lavender will be a lavender and this cream will be a cream, and that's just the way it'll work. So
yeah, it's just I look for good sized pods.
Yeah, and sweet pea seed when you buy it is expensive. When you buy it from breeders, the growers spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, to come up with new colors and things of that nature.
So I might, go looking for maybe a new color.
Oh, yeah.
But I got a lot what I wanted.
But this really worked out well too from a harvest standpoint. So I'm thinking, from a successful standpoint, first of all, our trellis never collapsed.
That's a big positive.
That's a big positive. And we were able to easily keep up with, coming through a couple times a week and taking off the suckers, the spent blossoms, and all the tendrils.
And I never tripped once.
No.
Which I have in the past in the jungles.
Yeah. So
no injuries.
Anticipating this is going to be done by middle of, let's see. We'll probably have the seed harvested by the first week of August or so.
Hopefully, yeah.
And that means we'll crop it out at that point. And then what comes in are fall snapdragons.
Yep.
We're not going to remove the trellising. We'll remove the strings, obviously. The trellis is just going to stay here on a permanent basis. And then we'll plant snapdragons in this spot. And
for fall.
For fall.
Not overwintering ones.
Right. They'll be for harvest like in October.
Right.
So.
And then it goes back to sweet peas in the spring.
And this stalk back here is finished. I'm going to crop that out next and put in celosia.
Right.
And we've got our green drops, which is a form of like mini sorghums, kind of like a sorghum.
Or Cetera.
Or yeah,
I don't know. It's new.
Yeah, it's new. It's kind of like it's kind of got a bloom head that is looking like kind of like a sorghum, but it's probably not actually a sorghum. Then we got our Lysianthus over on that side. We intercropped when we did the Lysianthus behind the green drops. That actually started out with a stalk in there, and then we planted Lysianthus between the stalk plants. So once we cropped out the stalk, when we go down here and we can kind of take a look at this, what you can see is you can see the remaining stumps from the stalk plants. I got a few weeds in here too. I'm fighting bindweed in here. It's a constant battle, but we just left the stumps in, and so these guys, weed them again and fertilize them, and these guys should be blooming, I think, in August.
All no-till.
Yeah, this is all no-till, and these guys are actually ahead, which is interesting. Different varieties. This is Corelli Pink, and these over here we got Fall to Salmon and
Rosita Lavender.
Rosita Brown.
Yeah, Roseanne
Brown.
and Rosita Lavender.
And Rosita Lavender at the end, which is the slowest. It's kind of weird. I got some perennial weeds in here I'm still fighting, but we'll come through and we just clean them up when we can. Make sure we get rid of them. Okay, so this is it. Like we were talking about, we should get production on this well into mid to late July, and then we'll get our seed off it, and then we'll crop it out. So it's gonna work out pretty good. So thanks for following us along on the update here and what we're doing. And I think the cordon method actually probably is more efficient in the long run than we used to just let these guys run wild almost, even though as much as we try to keep them corralled. This methodology seems to be very productive for us.
I think that I've gotten way more stems doing this method than I ever could fight to get other stems out. These stems were longer than the original just up, panels. We did the panels, and they were short, and this just creates way longer stems.
Yeah, and I think the florist appreciate that.
Yeah,
too.
she noticed.
Yeah, and in a sense, you get a premium price for that too.
Right.
Bigger heads, longer stems.
Right.
It gives the florist a lot more flexibility.
Right.
So, thanks for joining us as the sun is setting here. I think we're probably going to sign off, and thanks for watching, and you guys stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.